Hey there everyone, welcome back into VGMporium, video game music and more, and today we're going to be focusing in on the more part. If you recall from the last episode, I alluded to what this week's episode would be about, and it's a little compilation called Nagz Presents 100 Best Demoscene Smalltunes, and it's basically just this huge collection of like Demoscene tunes from like the late 80s all the way up until 2009, and it's just like a mix of multiple formats, multiple music trackers. It's a really cool collection that Nagz put together here, and I'm going to be sharing the 10 tracks that are my favorites from this collection of 100. So, what I'm going to show you here is just a tenth of what you can listen to on this compilation, and I would highly recommend you go check it out. I've linked in the show notes where you can currently download the zip file, as well as the original site where the compilation was released on. The download link is dead, but it's still cool to check out, the release blurb, and as well as like comments on there from 2009 when it was released. Now, before I go any further, maybe I should explain what is Demoscene. Well, what it was is back in the 80s, when computers were really starting to become a lot more available, like the Commodore 64 and Amiga. People started getting together and learning. Well, people were doing like things separately, making music either in the tracking programs that were starting to come out, or making graphics and weird little like video things. And these people started coming together in groups and combining these things and creating what was called a demo. And these would usually be put on a disc, a floppy disk, or a little, those little like 3/4 hard disk things. And they would just start like, I think in the early internet, you'd be able to like actually share the files back and forth, or like I think they would send the discs back to each other. But also there'd be like things like get-togethers, gatherings where you'd actually, like trade discs, or like you'd make multiple discs and like hand them out to people or something. I don't know the history on it. I was just a wee little like snot goblin when all this was really going down. But it's just like, it's how the name came out. It was a scene. They were trading out demos. Demoscene. And the scene's still going pretty strong today. It's not just now limited to those personal computers of the late 80s, early 90s, like the Commodore 64, Amiga, ZX Spectrum, CPC Amstrad, all those things. It's extended to consoles even. And so yeah, basically, Demoscene is just a combination of graphics, programming, and music. And today, we are focusing on the music. So now the track that we opened up with was Zigzawu by Nagz, and this was made in Fast Tracker 2 under the XM or extended module format. And I actually have the module opened up right here in front of me, and reading in the little comments section that the most tracker module files will have, it reads, created by Nagz of GRM 243 to TQL, PE, Drugs, MLB, and STN, which I imagine are all like the different groups that he was involved in. Dream. All samples by me, made in 2000 in Hungary, and then just a bunch of extra greets or like shout outs to people like Bacter, Quasar, Drax, UX, Vlad, NetPoet, NOISE, Salza, just to name a few that are on there. So now I couldn't really find much information on Nagz himself. It's kind of the case for most of these Demosceners. It's like if you're in the know, like if you're really involved with the scene, you who's who and what's going on and everything. And if you're not, you're kind of just having to hunt down like different sites like Poets, various other Demoscene sites to try to get little tidbits and stuff. So I'm gonna just kind of leave it to reading the comments on the modules and everything, and maybe just telling you what I personally know about them. And what I can tell you about Nagz is that his music is just almost otherworldly. It's just crazy how good he is with like all his little like chip leads and everything. And actually, that's one other little note I forgot to mention, was that's where the phrase chiptune came from, was from the like these tracker Demoscene stuff. Because like with trackers you could actually sample real instruments like on the Amiga and all this stuff. But when you would use sounds that like simple waves like square, triangle, all that stuff that would sound like these older computers and consoles that could only have like that 8-bit generation, they were called chiptunes because they were using chip sounds. It wasn't until like maybe like the 2000s or so that chiptune really started kind of being considered towards like older music on consoles like on the NES, Sega Genesis, SNES, just like sounds that were being made off of those sound chips. But so when you hear chiptune, it can either have two meanings, like either music being made on the sound chips of those old consoles, or music being made on tracker programs using these chip sounds like, simple square waves, triangle, saw, like sine, all that stuff. Now we're going to move on to our next tune here. It is As Ugunok by Carlos, made in 1998. That was As Ugunok by Carlos, made in 1998 in the .xm format on Fast Tracker 2. And what his module comments read is Lakatos Ugunok Kalenjai. Chiptune by Carlos, Mandula.beep.breeze for ADS-CMC number 1. So I can tell you that Mandula, Beep, and Breeze were 3 groups that he were a part of, as well as Jcole. And his real name is Gabor Sordas from Budapest, Hungary. And he is currently now actually a actual music producer of like jazz and funk style music. And you can find him on SoundCloud. I'm going to link him on the show notes, as well as on the Demo Zoo, which is where I found out all this stuff. And this is a fun little jazzy chiptune now, weren't it? It's got a nice bouncy step and that really cool little like solo lead section in the middle there. Oh yes, it's a mighty fine tune. A mighty fine small tune. So now we're going to move on to our next track, and that is Lagoon Level from Fury of the Furries, Not That Kind, by Moby. It is a .mod file made in 1992. that was Lagoon Level from Fury of the Furries by Moby, made in 1992 for the Amiga. And now you may be asking, why is there a song from a game on this compilation? Well, that is because Moby, also known as El Mobo Behemoth, real name Frédéric Mott from France. And he is one of the grand masters of the Demoscene, starting back in 1988. He had, just made just a massive amount of music in the Demoscene, and then eventually would go on to actually make music for video games, which is kind of like the big dream of Demosceners, I think. And he's still going today, kind of going back and forth between like the Demoscene and video game music making. So now, back to the Fury of the Furries. So no, this is not furries in the context of nowadays of people like, wearing the costumes and being into anthropomorphized animals. No, furries in this case, in this game, are these little balls of fur with these big old eyes with no like separation. So like think Sonic eyes, these kind of like, kind of attitudinal smirks and big old toes, big old fleshy toes. And it's just one of those Amiga platformers of the European style. So just a lot of stuff to collect in these big old crazy stages. If you know, you know. But something cool I found is under the name El Mobo on Bandcamp, he did share the Fury of the Furies Amiga soundtrack, and he has a blurb here to go with it. So it says, here's the music from the Amiga version of Fury of the Furries. The tunes are named after the levels they were supposed to be assigned to, but the developers messed everything up, as always. If you think the music is faster than your memory, then you probably played the PAL version of the game, which plays the music at the wrong tempo. As you can see, everything that could have gone wrong with this game soundtrack actually did. Just found out that 2 bonus tracks were actually used in the Macintosh version of the game, so they have been renamed accordingly. And yeah, so this is back in 2010 when he posted this up there. And this game was ported to, various other platforms like IBM PC, Macintosh, all that stuff. So I kind of actually like the IBM PC version. It's like the FM OPL3 sound. So like, ad-lib. I think it's ad-lib, I don't know. But yeah, no, I like that version too, because I am ever the FM junkie. But unfortunately, no FM at all this day. But we're going to move on to our next track, and that is Belfast Unlimited by jcole. And it's a .it format, and I'm assuming that it was like, late 90s, early 2000s. I don't have a date on the module or anything, so here you go. This is a really cool, interesting track. You just got your brain scrambled by Belfast Unlimited by jcole. Also known as Exact, jcole, real name Matt Swan, from Oulu, Finland. And this is made in the .it impulse tracker module format. And out of all the modules that I've been sharing with you today, that this one's the most interesting to like watch the playback of in like a tracker, because it's not just a straightforward like playthrough, like, you know, he's just like individually cutting things up. It's like stuttered, like he has like this effect set where it'll like stutter, repeat, like keep going slowly, going down, jumping back up, going, and it's just weird and crazy and all over the place. And yeah, when you if you go and download that zip file that has all these modules, look for, it's called Belfastu, and just load it up in something like, you know, an impulse tracker or mod plug or milky tracker or whatever, and just watch it go, because it's just so fascinating. Though I'm just now looking at the comment section on the module, and it's saying do not use a mod plug as playback, mix it to use IT, joy. But this pack was from 2009, and so I'd imagine by now, like, you know, almost more than 10 years later, mod plug is updated to the point where it can play it back right. So hopefully what you're hearing is how it's intended to hear. And I'm actually going to use this time to kind of talk about my experience with this whole like 100 Demoscenes pack. Yeah, I think I found it like, you know, late 2009, and didn't really get a chance to really explore it until 2010 when I was living in San Francisco for 3 months. I was going to a place called SAE Institute of Technology for a 3-month course on electronic music production, but it didn't start until February. I moved there in January as a student, so I was living in this hostel place. It was called Vantaggio Suites, and I was sharing a room with 2 other peoples, and the roommates were almost always, were always foreign, like, you know, coming from other countries, coming to learn English for the most part. So I had a lot of free time. So a lot, like, if I wasn't walking around the city, I was sitting with my laptop, like opening these up in Milky Tracker and just watching them, just kind of like just fascinated, like, how are they doing this with this, like, these things? Because at the time I was only using Reason or Fruity Loops or Ableton. So just seeing this new way of making music, like, you know, with all these like letters and numbers and like weird things going on and stuff, it was just like kind of just blew and expanded my mind in a way. I didn't really get the grasp of it until maybe, you know, a couple of years later when I got my hands on VGM Music Maker, and that's when it actually set into like, oh, this is how it works. But yeah, no, I had a fun time watching them all, and then I actually went so far as to export all the tracks to WAV file and then turn them into .mp3s to put onto my MP3 player so I could listen to them on the go. So yeah, it's definitely not a small thing to say that this pack of 100 Demoscene tunes put together by Nagz had a pretty big impact on me. Now I got something a little easier on the ears coming up here. This is Yoghurt Factory by Radix, a .xm file made in 1999. That was Yoghurt Factory by Radix, a .xm module made in 1999. And the little comment section in the module says, Radix Digisonics, Little Yogi Factory, and Alsace Countryside. And this definitely kind of helps make you see that Yogurt Factory on the countryside there. So Radix, also known as Mosaic, Rimdelego, Sinesprit, and Raji. His real name is Jacob Svanholm from Stockholm, Sweden. And this guy has been in a massive number of groups, just to name a few: Digisonics, Replay, The Black Lotus, Velvet Development, and then some inactive ones now, Analog Music, Duplo, Tokyo Dawn Records. And this fella has been active since 1993 with the Demoscene, and he's still going today with the latest track on Demo Zoo being Salty Water, which was another Amiga tune, so .mod, in August of 2022, so just last month. And I found he does have a SoundCloud where he's making some really, really cool soundscape music under the name Mosaic. And I'm going to link that in the show notes because it's like from just a few tracks I've listened to, they're really good. Well, we're halfway through with what I want to share with you today. To do this halfway point, I've got a really cool one here for you. A familiar name. This is Daring Escape by Vert. This is a .it module made in 1999. That was Daring Escape by Vert, an impulse tracker module made in 1999. And I don't feel I need to tell you about Vert because, I featured him as one of my masters of VGM when that was going on back in June. But maybe just a little recap. So, real name, Jake Kaufman. He is a VGM wizard. Starting in 2000 or 99, 2000 with Dry Mouth on the Game Boy Color. Going on to do Shantae, in later years, Shovel Knight. Currently is working on the soundtrack for Mina the Hollower. And then just recently, within the last few days, released Shovel Knight Dig was released, and he did the soundtrack for that. And I hear tell entirely in Bamboo Tracker, which is a tracker that emulates the YM2608, which is the sound chip used in the NEC PC series of computers. And yes, our boy here has been lightly involved with the demo scene since late 90s, kind of just doing things here and there. The latest thing I could find on DemoZoo was that he had done music for a little MS-DOS demo called 8,088 miles per hour, which takes this 1983 or 81 IBM PC and does things on it that you would never imagine could have been done. I didn't even know about this PC and it could be done. They took a computer that had about maybe one color with hacks, 16 at the most, and made it have 1,000 different colors on it, and doing all these crazy things that, like I said, you wouldn't imagine this old ass computer could do. And the music on it is one beeper style. And of course, Vert was able to squeeze as much out of as he could out of it. Oh, and I should mention that this was in 2015. So now I'm going to read you the blurb that is on the module because it's actually pretty cool. So, this first started as an attempt to integrate a breakbeat with an old chiptune I had written, and I ended up combining several melodies that were not powerful enough on their own into one large idea. I had originally envisioned this as an escape from a huge castle, with the fanfare at the beginning and then devious strings of tension. I ended up going way out of line with cheesy chord progressions. Some Necros influence here, and I believe it or not, I used one 4-chord transition from the fight music in Laguna's scenarios in Final Fantasy VIII. See if you can find it. Smiley face. At the end, the last pattern with the drums in it, the chord progressions is a variant of the type used in the Back to the Future theme. I've never been able to get it before, and I'm fucking proud, because it's complicated. In all, I think this captures the long journey together, so it was fitting for Tasha and Robert. For a little bit of context, I remember finding this originally on his old website, Big Lion Music, and under this one it said, he had created this song as a celebration for his friend's marriage. So there's that, that Tasha and Robert bit. So now moving right along, I got another fun track for you. This is Jumping Cows and Pigs by Haggeman, an XM module made in 2000. That was Jumping Cows and Pigs by Haggeman, an XM module made in 2000. And this module is just wacky times. So the music was done by Haggeman, real name Thomas Hagfors from Sweden, but there's some pattern weirdness going on by Tom Trisk. So about halfway through the track, like it's kind of like does it stop, and then it goes like, like that crazy solo bit. What Trisk did, Tom Trisk, took the patterns and like cut them up into like little bits. So like there's like little like the module like the pattern numbers are like individual little like notes, and then get expanding, and then going upwards instead of downwards, and then just going jumping all over the place and just doing weird crazy stuff. It's kind of like Belfast Unlimited, but a different way, and it's just like still, I don't know how to explain it. It's just another one of those ones you just got to grab the module, open it up in Mod Plug Tracker, and just watch it because it's just wacky. So a little bit on the notes. The only English part is "Do you miss the Amiga?" Dosk Pop and Old School, and then it just goes off into Swedish, and then a bunch of thanks in Swedish. But yeah, so this is done in the style of like old Amiga tracks, like using the samples and sounds, and like I think let's see here, yeah, going with the 4-channel format, but being an XM file, like an extended module, you can have like extra like craziness going on with like the effects commands and everything, and like the pattern fun times. So now we're going to take the silly dial and turn it all the way down with the next track called Tears of the Heart by Drax of Maniacs of Noise, another XM module made in 2001. That was Tears of My Heart by Drax, a Fast Tracker 2 extended module made in 2001 for the chip music disc called Ouch 2. And so now Drax, real name Thomas Mogensen of Denmark, he is another one of those of the early Demoscene. So back in like 1988 is when he started up doing stuff for Commodore 64. And just looking at this list, still doing primarily Commodore 64 Demoscene, today, doing the occasional tracked music for music discs and compos. And I think the kind of thing I like about this track is that, the combination of the chip sounds with that string, like the pad string in the background. Imagine like if you're in that certain state that it'll really pull at your angst, kind of get you a little tear jerky. But to pull us out of that melancholy, I got us an action-packed track. This is Final Boss Theme by Zabutam, another Fast Tracker 2 extended module made in 2003. That was Final Boss Theme by Zabutom, an extended module made in 2003. So now Zabutom is one of those I knew about before finding this pack, and it was mostly through his sound chiptune stuff. So he had done a lot of stuff for NES, Commodore 64, I think some AY like ZX Spectrum stuff. He's been active since about the early 2000s, like 2001 or so, doing a lot of Demoscene stuff for Amiga, Commodore 64, Game Boy, Nintendo, a lot of tracker music. He's been doing a lot of live electronic sets, and if you'd like to check that out, it's all up on his SoundCloud and Bandcamp, and I'll be sharing those in the show notes. So now winding down, I got my last track here for you. This is Finally by Samplemaster, an impulse tracker module made in 2002. That was Finally by Samplemaster, impulse tracker module made in 2002 for Big Chip Compo number 3. And how do I know the compo it was made for? Well, in the notes that he did for the module, it says song made for Big Chip Compo number 3. This is my first chiptune, so I don't expect it to win. Anyway, it was a hard time making this tune compatible with XM Play since it was made in Impulse and remastered with ModPlug Tracker. but I think I managed well doing that. Still, this song is best played in Mod Plug Player, so try that once. Bay. So an interesting note on this one is that when I originally played it and exported it with Milky Tracker, it played it very strangely. Like the symbols that are in there, like, they kind of do like weird little pitch tricks in the Mod Plug. In Milky Tracker, it just hit and then it just kept it going, kept the loop of the crash just going throughout the entire song, and then all the other instruments sounded weird, different. Didn't have the kind of smoothness that this version does on Mod Plug Tracker. So yeah, for the longest time, I had been listening to it improperly, and then wasn't until I discovered Mod Plug Tracker that I heard it right for the first time. And that's actually been the case for a few of these tracks, as well as that whole pack I had. A lot of them played properly, played just right, but there were a few of them that had weird little quirks. Some of them were just kind of weird, wasn't big noticeable, and then some of them were just like this one, where it's just a big and egregious errors going on. So yeah, just Milky Tracker's good for some things, but seems like open Mod Plug Tracker right now is the if you're wanting to listen to module files or make them, might be the one to go for. So now as for Samplemaster, doesn't seem like much going on. First track was this one finally in 2002, though from the sound of the description on the notes, may have been doing stuff before that, but on Demoscene and Nectarine and Mod Archive, it doesn't go back further than 2002. And then he did one thing in 2008 and 2009, and then not much after that. So I can't really tell you much more about the guy. And there you have it, some of my favorites from this 100 Demoscene Smalltune collection by Nagz. I'll say it right here that there's probably those that could cover this collection way better than I could. Probably have a better understanding of the Demoscene, because my knowledge of it is just limited to some of the bigger names and some of the weird little things that I'll find out doing my research for these things. But not that I'm gonna let that stop me from sharing my love of this music. And so I mentioned before that I'll be linking the zip file with all the modules in it. Like I said, just get your hands on it. Check it out, because it is just such a varied collection of music and, worth listening to. So now I spiel at you. So, this has been VGMporium, and you can find it on all your favorite podcatchers, as well as on social medias as Instagram and Twitter, as well as, and then I've been your host, the proprietor of this fine establishment. Yeah, Rage Cage. You can find me also on those social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, kinda, as well as SoundCloud, where I post all my original music. None of it on the level of this stuff. Oh, and yes, there is a YouTube channel for both VGMporium and Rage Cage, if you'd like to check that out. And then, let's see, what's going on next week is something I've been looking forward to for ever since I started the show. I'm going to be having my very first guest on VGMporium. He's one of my long-time friends, and when we get together, just stuff gets ridiculous and wonky, and it's a fun time. The music we're going to be listening to is it's very hard to describe. It kind of calls it cutesy, shy, mysterious. It's kind of inexplicable. But yeah, so next week with my friend Wade, we're going to be listening to an inexplicably cute sound. I hope you're ready, because it's going to get ridiculous.